The recorded call that exposed her. It was late at night when the phone call happened. A call so calm, so measured, that if you heard it without context, you'd never guess it was the beginning of the end. But what Jennifer said next, and what was already happening behind the scenes, would eventually seal her fate. Because this wasn't just a missing person case. This was a story about a family that looked perfect from the outside, and a marriage that had been breaking for months. And by the time police were called, the truth was already buried, somewhere in the cold silence of northern Utah. A perfect family. On paper, Jennifer Gledhill and Matthew Johnson seemed like the kind of couple people admired. They lived in a beautiful home in Cottonwood Heights, Utah. A quiet neighborhood, a clean image. 3 kids, still young, still innocent. Matthew was 51, a devoted father, a husband, and a respected member of the Utah National Guard. Not just any soldier, Matthew was associated with elite military work, the kind that demands discipline, precision, and trust. The people around him described him as reliable, the type of man you could call when you needed answers. Jennifer was 42. To friends and neighbors, she came across as kind, calm, a homebody, the supportive military wife, the caring mother, the kind of person you wouldn't suspect. But appearances are often the smoothest part of the lie. The marriage that was quietly falling apart. Months before Matthew went missing, things were already unraveling. Court documents would later paint a picture that looked nothing like the family image. The marriage was dysfunctional, emotionally chaotic, and reportedly deteriorating for a long time. By mid-2024, divorce was already being discussed. Then, Jennifer made a move that would later seem chilling in hindsight. She filed for a temporary protective order against Matthew, a legal document that tells the court, "I need protection from this person." But when the case was reviewed, the court wasn't convinced. A commissioner reviewed what Jennifer submitted: videos, messages, claims. And what he saw didn't match the story Jennifer was presenting. Instead of fear, the court noted confrontation. Instead of a victim, the court saw 2 adults locked in a toxic cycle. And the messages, according to the findings, were not gentle. They were described as berating, belittling, demeaning. The kind of communication that doesn't just reflect conflict, but conflict with sharp edges. In mid-September, the protective order was dismissed, and the commissioner wrote something that now reads like a warning. A marriage that had brought out the worst in both parties. A divorce that should have happened long before things reached this point. But what no one in that courtroom knew was that Jennifer wasn't planning for divorce. Matthew starts to fear his own home. In the weeks leading up to his disappearance, Matthew's behavior reportedly changed. According to friends, things at home became so tense that Matthew began sleeping away from the house, at a National Guard facility. Not because he didn't love his children, but because he didn't feel safe. Imagine how bad things have to get for a man trained in danger to avoid his own bed. In one of his final conversations with a close friend, Matthew reportedly said he was done, that it was time. Divorce. Move on. Start over. But Matthew never got the chance. The double life. Because while Matthew was preparing to leave, Jennifer was already living a different reality. A relationship outside the marriage. An affair. And by all accounts, it wasn't casual. It was consuming. The kind that becomes a new world and makes the old world feel like an obstacle. 2 days before Matthew was killed, according to investigators, Jennifer showed her lover something that should have sounded alarms: a loaded handgun. At the time, it may not have seemed shocking. Military families often own firearms. But later, prosecutors would argue this wasn't random. It was part of a mindset, a path, one that was already moving forward. The night the house changed forever. On September the 20th, the truth reportedly exploded. Matthew confronted Jennifer about the affair. Voices raised, years of tension spilling out at once. Witnesses would later report hearing an argument, and Jennifer would later admit there was confrontation. In that moment, the marriage wasn't just broken, it was exposed. And after that night, Matthew went to sleep. A choice made in silence. In the early hours of the next morning, while the home was quiet, Jennifer made the decision that would destroy multiple families. Authorities allege that Matthew was shot while sleeping. Then came something colder than violence: method. A cover-up. Steps taken not in panic, but in planning. According to investigators, Jennifer moved his body using a storage container. She transported it in the family van. She damaged his phone. She moved his truck and abandoned it in a nearby area, creating the appearance of a voluntary disappearance. And then she drove north, somewhere across the stretch of Utah roads, into places with less light, fewer cameras, fewer questions. Authorities believe Matthew was buried in a shallow grave, and to this day, his exact location has not been publicly confirmed. The cleanup that couldn't erase everything. Jennifer returned home and cleaned. Not casually, not like someone wiping away mess, like someone trying to erase a scene. Reports say bleach was used, carpet cleaning supplies, walls scrubbed. And then something that stands out. A brand new mattress was ordered. A replacement. As if the room needed to look new, as if normal could be purchased and delivered. But the problem with real life is that it leaves traces. Even when you scrub, even when you bleach, even when you replace. The confession. She didn't think would matter. Then Jennifer made a mistake. She told someone. Late at night, she went to her lover's home, and she confessed. Not with tears, not with visible shock, but in a way that reportedly felt casual. She explained what she had done, how she moved the body, how she cleaned the house. The lover noticed bruises. Jennifer allegedly explained they came from the work of covering things up. And at that moment, something changed. Because her lover didn't respond with loyalty, he responded with fear. He realized he was standing too close to something dangerous, so he started collecting proof. Screenshots, messages, recordings, and he recorded the next conversation. The recorded call. On that recorded call, when he expressed fear, Jennifer responded in a way that would later become haunting evidence. She allegedly minimized Matthew, describing him as if he were no longer a person. A chilling emotional detachment, as though she had rewritten her husband in her mind so she wouldn't have to feel what she had done. Then came another statement, reported from that conversation. If the situation were reversed, she wouldn't be afraid. If she deserved it. That's the kind of thinking that stops sounding like anger and starts sounding like permission. Permission to do harm. Permission to justify it. Reporting him missing. Days later, Jennifer called police. She reported Matthew missing. She told them he had planned to be gone for a week, that he didn't want her contacting him. But by then, the National Guard had already noticed something was wrong, because Matthew missed duty. And while Jennifer tried to build a missing person narrative, the lover had already begun building a case. When police entered the house, when investigators searched the home, they found signs that contradicted Jennifer's story. Evidence consistent with something having happened in the master bedroom. And the room didn't just look cleaned, it looked aggressively cleaned. There were reports of stains beneath the bed, marks on bed frame components, spots in places that shouldn't have been there. And the smell, bleach. A scent that doesn't just say clean, it says erase. Phone records reportedly confirmed the mattress purchase timing. And GPS data from Jennifer's phone, according to authorities, placed her movements in locations consistent with the abandonment of Matthew's truck and travel north afterward. The story of missing started collapsing, piece by piece. The arrest. On October the 2nd, armed with recordings, digital trails and physical evidence, police arrested Jennifer Gledhill. She faced serious charges, including first-degree murder and obstruction of justice. But the case didn't stop there, because soon, investigators looked at the people closest to her. Her parents. The parents. Not long after, Jennifer's parents were also arrested and charged with obstruction-related offenses. Investigators believed they had spent significant time at Jennifer's home during the period where evidence may have been cleaned. There were also details that raised suspicion: a purchase linked to the new mattress, a phone that was reset, statements that implied knowledge of a crime scene before that should have been obvious. And during a search of the parents' home, police reportedly found a firearm box consistent with the handgun Jennifer had shown her lover. Hidden away, wrapped, stored, as if the family was trying to protect Jennifer, even if it meant burying the truth along with Matthew. The search that won't end. Months passed. Search efforts expanded across multiple counties. Law enforcement, volunteers, military friends, people who served with Matthew, people who trusted him, joined efforts to bring him home. Because even after arrest, even with evidence, the most painful part remained. Matthew's body had not been recovered. And without recovery, the family remained trapped between reality and silence. Where the case stands, Jennifer has pleaded not guilty to the charges. The case includes multiple layers: the murder allegation, the cover-up, the recorded call, the digital evidence, and the involvement of family. There are also legal questions connected to life insurance and financial outcomes, because when someone dies, paperwork follows. But in this case, the biggest question isn't money. It's the simplest one. Where is Matthew? Because somewhere in northern Utah, a father, a soldier, a man who was trying to leave, is still waiting to be found. Closing. Sometimes the most terrifying crimes aren't committed in public. They happen in homes, in quiet bedrooms, in families that look perfect. And the truth isn't revealed by witnesses on the street, but by a phone call recorded at the right time. A confession whispered to the wrong person. This is Whispers of Crime.